Here's my example of that. Here in Watertown, we've seen so many cases of what I call the angelic syndrome, where a woman who's got her act together, she hangs out with the worst possible, maybe not the worst possible person, not a Charles Manson guy, but typically it's that angelic woman that can change that guy, can change him from smoking or, getting drunk or not being faithful and whatnot. And she gives everything, in some cases, actually allows him to sell drugs right out of his house. And we see that a lot up here. Is that an example of someone who's actually trying so desperately to help someone else's life, but at the end of the day, they're doing it for themselves?
If you want to talk about a lack of sensory acuity, those folks would probably be it, because what they're actually doing is reliving the same thing and dating the same people over and over and over
all the time. You're right.
And now this is a bit different than what we're talking about, but I'm going to keep going with it because it's a really good question. In my experience and from what I've been taught, and it's something that we could touch on with Scott when he's on here, and we could even touch on it with anybody else we have on here.
Sure, of course.
Anyone else we interview. What you're going to find there is people tends to attract same. So people that have the same general step-by-step processes that created a situation in their background, and they have, as we say, a hole in their heart that matches up with somebody else's pain, they're going to attract each other. And the feeling they're going to get from matching up with that person is going to seem like it's love. Okay, but it's not. It feels good and bad at the same time. And that's what you get a lot. You have people revisiting over and over again something that they've been through or seen someone else go through. Right. It's almost like a legacy. And what folks would want to do is they want to change that. And then be able to experience what true love feels like, and notice and compare and contrast what it felt like when they were, trading senses of abandonment or some other kind of emotional pain or senses of injustice. And notice they're not the same two things.
No,
right?
No.
So what you've got there is the way that we would deal with that is point that out. And a good way for people to get out of that, again, is stepping outside of themselves and their normal cycles by focusing on other people legitimately and keeping their balance at heart, and notice what's happening, and only then can they have the power to change it for themselves, and other people aren't going to do it for them. So sensory acuity is the key to all of these things. Now, when we talk to Scott, he's going to talk about reading people, and it's going to seem like magic. And I guess this is a really good introduction to that, because it's not magic. It's just when you have these things practiced to a certain extent, they start to develop new and more powerful results. And, the reason why we have repetition, the reason why we have a little bit of confusion and we have learning is because you can't just have everything at once, or else you wouldn't know what to do with it. So it's almost like sensory acuity builds on itself. The more that you do it, the closer and closer you get to being able to do things like change careers, right, to something that suits your needs, to be able to relate to the people that need you to relate to them, especially if they're somebody that doesn't communicate in a way that you would like them to communicate. Sure. Somebody that might seem nasty because they're in some kind of actual physical pain is what comes to mind. And we have a lot of that in New York State. A lot of people, we have a lot of adult children giving care to the elderly and their elder parents, and things aren't going great. So when it comes to being aware of things, then you can change the things that you need to be aware of. You can change your surroundings. And that's important.
It is important.
It's important if you want to enjoy yourself. Now, it also
if you want to live life to at least better than what you're living life right now. I agree with you.